There's a place just a short drive outside of Houston, Texas, called the Big Thicket. And I love the name, the Big Thicket. It's not the small thicket. It's not the moderate or adequately sized thicket. It's the Big Thicket. And the Big Thicket is a state park that's the host of a variety of biodiverse organisms, from plants and animals to fungi and insects. I have collaborators at Rice University who believe that they have found a new species of ant in the Big Thicket, and they would like our help with some genomics to discover whether or not these ants are truly a new species, never before characterized. And I'm really happy to talk with you all about ants, and I won't only be talking about ants, but I think ants represent a very important lesson in life. And if you lend me your attention for a brief while, I'd love to talk with you about how some of the smallest things can have the biggest impact. Now, I actually think ants are absolutely awesome, and without the alliteration, can be amazing organisms to study and learn from. They have these really cool olfactory sensors that they use to send complex communications amongst one another, to spell out danger or tell each other where the best food source is. It's pretty cool. I want you to take a second and think about how we can use ants and their amazing sense of smell. Because what ants do really is phenomenal. And once we utilize modern genetic techniques to confirm that these Big Thicket ants are indeed a new species, we can actually infer a lot about human biology from them. The same olfactory sensors that they use to navigate their world can give us insights into evolutionary conservation of mechanisms between how ants smell and how mice and other mammals smell, to ultimately how human beings can smell. And I think that's phenomenal. But you might be thinking, why? Why do we care how human beings smell? And that's a good question. It's a valid question. Interestingly, there's a subset of patients with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases who report a loss of smell before any other symptom of their disease manifests. Perhaps if we identify novel olfactory receptors in the Big Thicket ants, we can use that to potentially molecularly diagnose forms of neurodegeneration earlier than we ever have before. Small things can have a big impact. And it's all thanks to places like the Big Thicket. The Big Thicket is just one of hundreds, thousands, untold amounts of beautiful biomes across the world. Think about all that hidden biology locked away in these wild places. Let's take a second and think about something that's a little bit easier to digest than the link between ants and the complexities and mysteries of the human brain. I think that's fair. I want you to think about the building you're in right now. What does it look like on the outside? I want you to imagine the office buildings and the parking lots. I want you to think about the gas stations and the highways all across the country, all over the world. Do you have that locked in your mind's eye? Now, I want you to think about turning the Big Thicket into a shopping mall center. Where are the ants? Where is the biology? Where is the discovery? Because the Big Thicket is just one place where discoveries can be made. And there were many places that were like the Big Thicket that are no longer there because we failed to respect the land and the biodiversity within it. There are so many beautiful biomes and complex ecosystems and wonderful environments that we have yet to fully explore. If only we had the foresight to protect them and the willingness to look. These wild places that you've never thought about or heard about as being significant could be for how our own human biology can operate, for how medicines can potentially operate. Historically, humans utilized nature as a source for medicine. We would harvest ants and try to isolate formic acid so that we could try to treat arthritis. We would isolate certain plant roots, like from agave lechuguilla in the Chihuahua Desert for their antimicrobial properties. We would make tea from willow tree bark to stifle inflammation and pain. That's the precursor to aspirin, by the way. Human beings respected nature because we relied on nature to cure ourselves of disease. Have we forgotten those lessons? I don't think so. Well, not entirely anyway. There's a whole new generation of scientists and nature lovers who are utilizing bioprospecting in order to re-engage with the ancient practices of our ancestors. And you may ask the question, what is bioprospecting? Bioprospecting is the modern technique of discovering new and defining old naturally based traditional medicines and bioproducts. Essentially, scientists venture out into the wild and try to source new biochemicals in order to treat disease and solve problems. Historically, some of these bioprospectors did a phenomenal job and bioprospected in a sustainable and respectful fashion, like the Paez tribe in Colombia. Historically, some other bioprospectors did not respect the gifts of the land. They abused it and ultimately damaged entire ecosystems, like what happened with the poaching of the sun bear in Asia. These differences in philosophies caused booms and busts in the popularity of bioprospecting. But it's now starting to see a comeback. You may have even heard of some modern medicines that we use in the clinic today that are sourced from nature and defined through bioprospecting. Taxol is a chemotherapeutic that's used to reduce tumor burden, and it's from a plant. Hirudin is an anticoagulant and an extremely important biological. And it's from leech saliva, which is kind of gross. Digitalis is a beta blocker that's used for the treatment of heart failure and is derived from a plant. Penicillin, one of the best known antibiotics, is from a fungus. Famously, the Nobel Prize was awarded to Dr. Tu Youyou of China in 2015 for her discovery of an anti-malarial drug that was sourced from traditional Chinese herbal medicine. And this herbal medicine was composed mostly of sweet wormwood, which is a plant. I received my PhD from Baylor College of Medicine in the great city of Houston, Texas, studying brains and cancer. And learning about these naturally derived therapeutics inspired me. It prompted me to use my biotechnology background to try and bolster conservation. And so I co-founded a nonprofit called Rio Raise with my best friend and scientific colleague, Josh Ortiz Guzman. And at Rio Raise, we try to use conservation as a discovery platform to find new classes of drugs and therapeutics in order to treat diseases. We want to use conservation to promote healthcare, and we want to use healthcare to promote conservation. We want to change the way that ants are looked at. We want to change the way that bacteria is looked at, that endangered species and plants and sea slugs are looked at. And we aren't alone. There are dozens of other companies, hundreds of other scientists, plenty of other academics and curious citizens all across the globe who are searching the far corners of the world for the next digitalis, for the next taxol, for the next Big Thicket ant. Who knows? I'm giving you these examples because I believe there needs to be a shift in how we are viewing conservation. Conservation needs to be more than just finding a piece of land and building a fence around it and not allowing logging companies to have their way. Conservation needs to do more than inspire people to reduce their CO2 emissions. Conservation needs to be more than just saving cute animals. Although I am for that, I think we should save the cute animals. That's okay. I want to be part of the change in how we are viewing conservation. I want people to start thinking about nature as their doctor once more. I want amateur scientists digging around their backyards, trying to find the next best thing. And importantly, I want everybody to realize that you don't need a fancy scientific degree, you don't need extremely complicated techniques, and you don't need expensive methods to find beautiful discoveries in nature. There are fashion designers that are using mushroom leather as an alternative to animal skins. There are farmers utilizing vermiculture composting as a form of organic fertilizer. There are hikers discovering new species of plants, animals, and mushrooms on their trail hikes. We're even starting to go back to ants and try to utilize them for their antifungal abilities. Who knows? You could discover the next best thing, as long as we protect nature for us to find it. When you stop viewing the desert as a place that is devoid of life, with nothing to offer but sand, and you start viewing it as a pharmacy, maybe as a hospital, or even a research laboratory, you will care even more about conservation. When you realize that the logging of the rainforests is stealing cures for diseases, you will care even more about conservation. When you understand that the destruction of environments, the erosion of the atmosphere, the pollution of fresh water sources is not just damaging for the planet's health, but for your own health, for the health of your friends, for the health of your loved ones, you will care even more about conservation. And if I can convince you of all of these things, then you can convince others. And if you can convince others, we can find cures. And if we can find cures, we can bolster conservation. The smallest things, in the biggest thickets, in the deepest oceans, in the driest deserts, and in the darkest caves, these smallest things, no matter where they are, can have the biggest impact. Thank you.